Hi there, my name's Gregor Johnstone. I'm one of the Epione associates, and I'll be talking you through Donald Nathanson's Compass of Shame. So before we get started, it's important to clarify the difference between shame and guilt. So guilt is feeling bad for something you've done, whereas shame is a perception of what you are. And shame's message quite often quickly moves from I've done something bad to I am bad. So Nathan's Compass of Shame identifies 4 different types of human responses that we go into when we're trying to cope with shame. So the withdrawal, attack self, attack others, and avoidance. So we know that high levels of shame are associated with a number of mental disorders, including psychological issues like depression, anxiety, personality disorders, low self-esteem. And when we are triggered into shame, we experience what Nathanson calls a cognitive shock, and that stops us thinking clearly. So no one can think clearly in that moment of shock. And Nathanson also describes shame as a spotlight. And it's a spotlight that draws attention and focuses attention on our deficits and failures. And it's an uncomfortable spotlight. So rather than working to repair or reframe their identity or learn what shame is trying to tell us, people try to get out of that uncomfortable spotlight using these 4 scripts or compass points. And the way that we evade shame becomes our own personal definition of shame, and it's different for everyone. So let's start with withdrawal. So withdrawal is a fight, freeze, defense response. And what we're doing here is we're viewing shame as valid, and we're withdrawing from that shame. We're withdrawing from situations in which that's felt in an attempt to minimize exposure to it. So this can involve isolating, running away, drawing into self. And what happens here is we cut off connections. And we know that connections, new healing connections based on reciprocal love, care, trust, are very important for post-traumatic growth. But this is something that we lose when we withdraw to avoid shame's spotlight. Okay, and then if we move on to attack self, well, withdrawal and attack self are both internalizing strategies. And attack self is a fight defense response. So what we're doing here is we're turning anger inwards. Again, we're viewing shame's message as valid. And what this can lead to is that self-criticism, self-deprecation, and even further into self-contempt and self-disgust. And we'll hear powerful language sometimes from the people we work with who are carrying this shame. They'll refer to themselves as no good or as a piece of shit, this powerful language. And what that does, that contempt and self-disgust, is it amplifies shame's effect. Then if we move round the compass, we come to avoidance. So this is a fight, freeze, defense response. And with avoidance, whereas with withdrawal and attack self, we're viewing shame's message as valid, here with avoidance, we're denying that message, okay? So people here are likely to use distraction techniques, and that can be drugs and alcohol, it could be sex, risky sex, it could be gambling, it could be food, it might be doing things that give us pride. But these are all distraction techniques that we use to avoid shame's message. One of the issues with avoidance as a strategy or a script is that it's most likely to operate outside of conscious awareness. And that stops us learning what shame is trying to tell us. So in relation to alcohol and drugs, Nathanson says Shame is soluble in alcohol and boiled away by cocaine and amphetamines. And that leaves us with the last defense response, which is a fight defense response, and that's attack others. So here we're reducing others' worth to try and boost our own self-esteem. And that can involve blaming. It could be blaming of victims, putting people down. And it might go to extremes as well of physical abuse or sexual sadism. So that's the 4 compass points. The good news is self-compassion is the antidote to shame. Because when we are under attack, and shame underlies a lot of difficult emotions such as anger, grief, fear. And these difficult emotions stick to us because they've often got that vein of shame running through them. And you may see anger arising when people feel disrespected or ashamed. So we need, when the self is under attack, we need self-compassion to help us find a way towards self-worth without needing external approval on the journey towards post-traumatic growth and healing. So that is the compass of shame. And look out for other videos on the Epione website. There are videos on the window of tolerance, videos on compassion-focused therapy, and the neurobiology of trauma. But thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again. Thanks.